Alright guys, so this video is going to be a lot different. I'm not going to be reacting to any clips in this one, but I do feel like it's important for me to make this video. So I've made a couple videos, or at least one, on Jimmy Dore talking about some of the propaganda he likes to push on his show. And a big draw for a lot of people that are fans of Jimmy Dore, especially people who say that they are progressives or leftists that say that they like Jimmy Dore and support Jimmy Dore. The reason that they say that is because, Jimmy Dore is the arbiter of truth. He will bash both sides. He holds both sides accountable. He's super pro-worker. This is a thing that he touts on his show regularly. He is very pro-work. He's very pro worker. He is very pro he's pro like labor, right? And so I have some new information here from Walker Bragman, who is a journalist, and you may have heard, or you might have heard, of Walker Bragman before. Walker Bragman is a journalist. He does like some political cartoons sometimes. Walker Bragman is someone that Jimmy Dore talks about on his show regularly. Walker Bragman lives in Jimmy Dore's head completely rent-free each and every day. Walker Bragman scares the living fucking shit out of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore gets scared anytime he sees Walker Bragman's name, and this is a piece of from Walker Bragman's Substack, where he reveals, and he has evidence, that Jimmy Dore's employees and the people that work for him have to sign these contracts, these work agreements that are not really what Jimmy Dore says he is for on his show. It's very pro-employer. It's very pro-company. It's not pro the person who is literally doing the labor. And it's very anti-worker. It's very anti-worker. So the first part of this article here, he talks about, he gives a little background information on Jimmy Dore, his career, what he's done. And this is where we are going to start this article. I'm going to make it a little smaller so you guys can see. So here it is. The core of Dore's appeal, however, stems from his reputation as a bare-knuckles populist, pugilistic, I'm not sure about that one, truth-telling everyman willing to hold all sides accountable on behalf of workers, especially Democrats. With a learn-as-you-go approach to news, the YouTuber has spent years raging against the machine, bemoaning the ills of sellout politicians, journalists, corporations, and capitalism. In a December live stream, for example, Dore huffed about how President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats have leveraged the 1926 Railway Labor Act to prevent a rail strike before the holidays, imposing an unpopular labor agreement on the workers that lacked any paid sick days. In typical Dore fashion, he ignored that the Republicans co-signed the deal and had even lobbied for a worse contract just weeks earlier. So, Joe Biden and the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the squad, they voted to screw you. This is what Dore said on his show. Dore told his viewers, adding that a labor strike would have set the tone for labor in the country. Labor is winning, he said. But documents obtained by important contacts, that's what this is right here, that labor is not necessarily winning at Dore's own show. An independent contractor agreement, which was used by Dore's production company, 4Dore Productions, it's 4DP, that's the abbreviation. I'm going to be referring to it as such from here on out in this video, in the summer of 2020, contains several, and this is a lot, guys. Several harsh provisions that disadvantage workers, including forced arbitration. Former friends and colleagues of Dore's told important context that the agreement was not out of character for the comedian. And just going off of this right here, without reading any parts of the contract, without looking at anything else, forced arbitration is already terrible, because most arbitrators in these matters, literally, they are almost always pro-employer. They are not pro-worker. They are not pro-workers' rights. They are literally pro-employer, almost always. These arbitrators are almost always pro-employer, not pro-worker, guys. This is not new information. This is something you guys can go and look up. This is there's a history of this, okay? Former friends and colleagues told Dore's important content agreements were not okay. We already said that. Very pro-employer. The agreement from 4DP includes clauses that are very protective of the company and Dore, legal experts told important context. The document contains a thorough 9-part, 3-page-long confidentiality section effectively prohibiting contractors from discussing anything they learned about Dore, his wife, or their collaborators on the job, including details about their business's personalized finances, investments, and more. Contractor acknowledges and agrees with the privacy of Stefan, or I'm just going to call her Steph, Zamorano. I'm assuming that's his wife. I'm pretty sure that's his wife, or maybe it's his ex. I'm not sure. And James Dore, Jimmy Dore, their family members, and the individuals with whom they collaborate are highly valued, and that all efforts are made to maintain confidentiality with respect to all information and other material of every kind concerning them. Accordingly, contractor agrees that he/she/it/they shall not at any time use or disclose directly or indirectly in any information in any way relating to Steph, Jimmy, their family members, or any of the individuals with whom they collaborate, including but not limited to any information concerning their business, personal life, finances, investments, performance, professional relationships, or otherwise, and all such information shall be deemed to be confidential and proprietary information and treated as such. The agreement is a stark departure from Dore's public commentary because in the past, Dore has criticized former President Trump's use of confidentiality agreements, with volunteers calling them very right-wingy. And here is a clip right over here. You guys can go and watch this clip for yourself. If you do not believe me, it is on the Young Turks channel. It is 6 years old. It is from September 6, 2016. The title of the video is hashtag Loser Donald forces volunteers to take loyalty pledge. And in this video, I'm not going to play the clip for time purposes, but in this video right here, Jimmy Dore literally says that the thing that he uses now that Donald Trump did, he literally did the same thing that Donald Trump did and criticized him very harshly in this video, and then he turned around and did it to his own employees. So, that's the first point on the board of hypocrisy, the imaginary board over here. So, that's Jimmy Dore for you, though. But if those people want to do that, you're a volunteer and you want to do that again, you're just a moron. If you want to play in traffic, I guess I can't stop you either. Like, go ahead. That's what Dore said in that clip about Trump, but he also did it too, so... Now, it gets worse, guys. The consequences for workers who breach Dore's confidentiality section or another extensive section requiring contractors to sign away rights to their work product can be severe under the agreement. Very severe. Breaches and even threatened breaches constitute immediate and irreparable harm. I don't know how. Entitling Dore's company to equitable, non-monetary relief, meaning contractors could be ordered to refrain from the activity. The agreement further stipulates that breaches entitle Dore's company to liquidated damages, okay, which are agreed upon damages for failing to meet a specific contractual obligation in the amount of $10,000. $10,000. $10,000. 1/10 of $100,000. I'll say it one more time. $10,000 fucking dollars. $10,000 per breach. Per breach. $10,000 per breach. Jimmy Dore, very pro-labor, very pro-worker, guys. Irreparable harm and liquidated damages. Contractor acknowledges that any breach or threatened breach by him/her of the provisions or of Section 6 or 7 of this agreement will result in immediate and irreparable harm for 4DP, for which there will be no adequate remedy at law, and that 4DP will be entitled to equitable relief to restrain contractor from violating the terms of these sections, or to compel contractor to cease and desist all unauthorized use and disclosure of the confidential and proprietary information without the necessity of showing any actual damages, or that monetary damages would not afford an adequate remedy, and without necessity of posting any bond or other security. Contractor explicitly acknowledges that and agrees that a breach of Section 6 or 7 constitutes a material breach of this agreement, and that in the event of such, the 4DP will suffer substantial damage. Don't know how. I don't know how. The extent of which is extremely difficult and impractical to determine and ascertain accordingly, and without limiting 4DP's rights or remedies, contractors shall pay 4DP the sum of $10,000 as liquidated and agreed damages in the event of each breaches of 6 or 7. So, Jimmy Dore, I don't even know. I can't even believe that's in the contract. I can't believe that at all. Something like an NDA that's not a non-standard thing, like, unfortunately, in our contemporary society, and where you have jobs from these employers. But that right there. I don't agree with a lot of NDAs. I think that that's, not pro worker, but $10,000, guys. $10,000. Okay. So these provisions are the hallmark of a very pro-employer employment contract. Alan Hyde, a distinguished professor and Sidney Reitman scholar at Rutgers Law School, told Important Context. Hyde noted that the provisions were of dubious enforceability, particularly the liquidated damages clause due to its high dollar figure. Even the people that look at this stuff for a living and do this every day and look at shit like this, people that teach about this stuff look at this and say, wow, this is fucking terrible. This is literally one of the most anti-worker contracts I've ever seen, especially from someone who gets on his goddamn show every day and says, I'm pro-worker. Look at what the Democrats are doing. Bitch, look in the mirror. Stop fucking lying on your show every day. And then they have these people that go and they fucking put him up on a pedestal and say, look at Jimmy Dore. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. Whoop, whoop. He's not. He's a fucking fraud. They have to be reasonable forecasts. At the time of contracting of the harm, which this one isn't because it's $10,000 irrespective of what the harm is. That's another thing. They don't even have to tell you what you did. They don't even have to tell you what your breach of contract was. What does that even mean? It's so broad. It's so general. And you have to pay $10,000. What the fuck is this? What the fuck? This is crazy. We're not going to read the next part of this other law and economics professor. Forced arbitration. Here's the next great part, guys. Jimmy Dore, everybody. The 4DP contractor agreement includes forced arbitration. Okay, forced arbitration. I'll say it one more time. Forced arbitration. For disputes except in certain circumstances like union busting. In arbitration, parties submit disputes and claims to a chosen arbitrator, in this case one affiliated with the American Arbitration Association, rather than going through the courts. Guys, the American Arbitration Association, these arbitrators, they are pro-employer. They are not pro-worker. I don't know how I can iterate this to you guys. You guys are going to have to look it up for yourselves. Go and do some research for me, guys. Please, that's your homework tonight. Go and look this up. Go and look up how these arbitrators have historically and significantly always sided with the employer and not the worker. In the event of any dispute, claim, or controversy between contractor and 4DP, or any of its directors, officers, employers, or agents arising from this agreement or contractor's agreement with 4DP, the parties will attempt to resolve the same through informal means. If such informal attempts fail, the parties agree to submit such dispute, claim, or controversy to final and binding arbitration under the Federal Arbitration Act. The arbitration will be conducted before the American Arbitration Association, AAA, in accordance with the AAA employment arbitration rules and mediation procedures. These rules are available from 4DP upon request or may be obtained from the AAA website. The claims governed by this arbitration provision include, without limitation, claims for wages and other compensation, claims for breach of contract, claims for violation of public policy, wrongful termination, and wrongful demotion, claims for fraud, misrepresentation, emotional distress, and other torts, claims for unlawful discrimination, harassment, and/or retaliation to the extent allowed by law, including but not limited to claims under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, the California Foreign Employment and Housing Act, and the California Labor Code, and claims for violation of any other federal, state, or municipal law, state regulation, or ordinance. So, although common in many work contracts, sometimes preferred in union workplaces, and often faster than litigation, arbitration can present obstacles to relief for workers. For example, it deprives workers of their ability to be heard by a jury. The 4DP contract spells this out explicitly, stating the parties understand that by signing this agreement, they give up their rights to a civil trial in a court of law and waive their right to a trial by jury. Juries have jobs they know that bosses overreach. Arbitration is much more favorable for employers. They can keep it secret. They don't have to have publicity. They don't have to face a jury. Once a decision has been rendered by an arbitrator, workers have a little recourse. As the National Association of Consumer Advocates warns, arbitrators aren't required to take the law and legal precedent into account in making their decisions. There is no appeal or public review of decisions to ensure the arbitrator got it right. Again, guys, arbitrators... There it is. Arbitrators are notorious pro-employer. It's just a fact. You can't argue against it. You can't say, well, I have a different opinion on that. It's a fact. Can't argue with the facts. A 2021, a 2021 study by the National Employment Law Project revealed that in 2019, forced arbitration in the U.S. allowed private sector employees to keep more than $9.27 billion in wages owed to non-union workers making less than $13 an hour. I don't know how I can put that into perspective for you guys, that arbitrators are literally almost always pro-employer, other than what I just said right there, okay? That's what it is. I hope that put that in perspective for you guys. I really do. A study from 2015 from the Economic Policy Institute, meanwhile, found that workers were roughly half as likely to prevail against their employers in arbitration as they were in litigation. And even then, the awards were only about 1/5 as high. So, again, guys, Jimmy Dore, the pro-worker arbiter of truth, Jimmy Dore, is not pro-worker. He's not pro-labor. In fact, he is actually pro-employer. He actually doesn't give a fuck at all about workers' rights. He's a fucking fraud. Arbitration can also be expensive. The provision that is most unfavorable to the subcontractor, noting that under the terms of the agreement, the costs of arbitrating are shared between the parties, and the prevailing party is entitled to attorney's fees. First, the fee for an American Arbitration Association arbitration is not peanuts. I don't know what it is lately. I haven't looked, but divided by two parties is probably going to be a couple $1,000s. So even if this does happen, they still have to, money is being shelled out. He's fucking robbing his workers. That's just the start. Then the arbitrator has to be compensated on the basis usually of a daily charge, and that daily charge may be $800, $1,000 a day divided by 2. Now add your lawyer's fees to that. So again, guys, there's just so much terrible shit in this. The parties understand that by signing this agreement, they give up their rights to a civil trial in court of law and waive their right to a trial by jury. The parties shall equally bear the arbitrator's fees and costs and any AAA administrative fees, recognizing that each side bears its own deposition, witness expert, and attorney's fees and other expenses to the same extent as if the matter were being heard in court. If, however, any party prevails on a statutory claim that affords the prevailing party attorney's fees and costs, and the arbitrator may award reasonable attorney's fees and costs to the prevailing party, any dispute as to who is a prevailing party and or the reasonableness of any fee or cost shall be resolved by the arbitrator. In the event litigation, mediation, or arbitration is commenced to enforce or construe any provision of this agreement to recover damages for breach of this agreement or to obtain declaratory, I'm having a hard time pronouncing some words here, guys, relief in connection with any provision of this agreement, the prevailing party shall be entitled to recover reasonable attorney's fees and costs to the extent permitted by law. This agreement to arbitrate does not apply to disputes or claims related to workers' compensation benefits, unemployment or insurance benefits, unfair labor practice charges under the National Labor Relations Act, or disputes or claims that are expressly excluded from arbitration by statute or expressly required to be arbitrated under a different procedure pursuant to an employee benefit plan. This agreement to arbitrate does not prevent contractor from filing a charge or complaint with the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing or the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission. It does not prevent any contractor from participating in any investigation or proceeding conducting by an agency. However, if one of these agencies issues a right to sue notice, binding arbitration under this agreement will be contractor's sole remedy. So there it is, guys. Again, credit to Walker Bragman for laying this all out, providing these details. Really, you guys should go and check this out. And then at the bottom here, we have some little asides, some little stories, little anecdotes of what it's like to work with, for, and around Jimmy Dore. And some of these stories are, they're not that bad. They're like, oh, he's kind of just a piece of shit. And then some of them are very, very, very bad. And the one that I have in my mind that I remember, the most, is this one. One target of Dore's was TYT host and journalism professor Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. You guys know that I'm a big fan of Anna Kasparian. I really, really like her. I think that she's done some amazing work. I think that she is incredibly well spoken, and I think that she does a really good job when she sits down with other conservatives to debate them or interview them or try to, just Anna Kasparian. She's just all around knows. She just knows her shit. Okay. Who told important context that Dore is very insecure and cannot stand women who have strong opinions or a strong voice. She called Dore a massive fraud and said he treated her and TYT producers poorly. Dore has publicly boasted about humiliating Kasparian with a comment about her inappropriate clothing. In retelling his story, Dore proudly proclaimed that he does not have a human resources department. That's a great thing to say out loud on camera. Kasparian has a different recollection of Dore's remarks, telling important context he actually commented on her, quote, sexy, unquote, legs on the day she'd brought her students in to tour the studio. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty young at the time, and it was really, really important for me to be taken seriously by the students, especially because it was the first time I was teaching at the university level. And I think the reason why he made a comment about my sexy legs in front of the students was because he wanted to undo any respect that I had earned with them. That's just so. It's literally sexual harassment. Come on. That's the rest of these. I'm not gonna focus too hard on that because I know Jimmy Dore is a piece of shit. I don't want to torture you guys with more terrible shit. I know that if you're anything like me right now, your ears are probably ringing from how much of a hypocrite one man is being. I cannot. It's a lot, guys. It's hard for me to handle, but I am so appreciative that Walker Bragman laid all of this out. Again, Walker Bragman scares the shit out of Jimmy Dore. Anytime Jimmy Dore hears his name, he starts running for the fucking hills. But if you guys liked this video, please hit that like button. It helps me out so much. And if you want to see more content like this, go on over to the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, and then press that little bell and turn on all notifications so you never miss an upload.